Hi, hello, welcome to Chasm Words. My name is Sam and I'm so happy you are here with me today. Today I will be filming my spring TBR. I don't do monthly TBRs, I do seasonal TBRs just because I hate being constricted to a really tight list that I mean, I didn't even really follow my last TBR, to be honest. I read like 2 books off of it. Even so, these are books that I always want to try to read this season, and it just feels less constricting than doing a monthly plan. There's always shiny object books that are just grabbing my attention. What am I currently reading? I'm currently reading Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. I am almost done. This book is so good. I'm pretty sure I know how it's going to end, just like because of where things are going. But that being said, I think it's going to be a really good ending all the same. I don't think knowing it's really going to ruin it for me. It's just so well written. It is so good. I'm loving it. It's probably going to end up being 4.5 or 5 stars, depending on how well the landing sticks. The ending lands is what I was trying to say. Yes, Cemetery Boys, Aiden Thomas. Definitely going to be my first book that I finish. Hopefully even today, the same day that I'm filming this. All right, the next 5 books are like the 5 physical books that I have right now that I really want to read. These are not necessarily in the order that I'm going to read them. They're just basically in the order that they sit nicely on this table. The first of these 3 are all from the same series. They're all from the Bridgerton series. I have the UK covers because I think they're much nicer and a much nicer size than the American editions. I would like to complain about the spines. They kind of match, kind of don't. These are the new run, and this is like the older of the new run, and this is like the newer of the new run because they've just sold out so many copies of these books. These were the covers I really wanted because are these not so charming, but this was the only one I managed to get like that. If I really like these books, maybe I will work on hunting down all of the books with these really cute covers. But I haven't even read them yet. Well, first of all, I guess, is The Duke and I, which is book 1. The Viscount Who Loved Me, which is book 2, which is the one I'm most excited to read because like we saw, you know, the events of book 1 more or less in season 1. So I really want to know about, you know, season 2. I want more of the story. And then we have book 3, An Offer from a Gentleman. I'm excited about this one too. I guess I should explain what they're about. They're historical romance if you've seen the show Bridgerton. I mean, they're historical romance. They follow the Bridgerton siblings. The first book is the oldest sister, Daphne. Book 2 is the oldest brother, Anthony, and the 3rd book is about a different brother, Benedict. And yeah, I mean, historical romance is definitely a genre that I know I'm going to be reading a lot of this year, just in general, and I'm so ready for it. Then I have a book that has been sitting on my shelf for a shameful amount of time, and that is The Colorless, Sukuru, Tazaki, and His Years of Pilgrimage by Haruki Murakami. I love Murakami's writing. I've only actually read his short stories, and I don't own any of his books besides this one. But I love his writing, and I picked this one up, I don't know, years ago at this point, and I was like, yes, I'll read it immediately, and then just didn't, and kept putting it off. And this year, I want to tackle Murakami quite a bit more. I want to read like a 1/3 of his published works, if I can manage it. And since this is the one that I have on my shelf, this is the one I'm going to start with. First of all, I love the cover. It's giving me major springtime vibes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I said first of all, but I do. I love the cover. It's giving me major springtime vibes. I'm not 100% sure what this is about, so I'm just going to read the back for you. Colorless, Sukuru Tazaki and His Years of Pilgrimage is the remarkable story of a young man haunted by a great loss, of dreams and nightmares that have unintended consequences for the world around us, and of a journey into the past that is necessary to mend the present. Here, Haruki Murakami, one of the most revered voices in literature today, gives us a story of love, friendship, and heartbreak for the ages. So, yeah. Really, really excited for this one. Also not too long, so I think it'll be a nice quick read. And then the last physical book that I have on my TBR is Winter's Orbit by Evarina Maxwell. This is about 2 families, I think, or like whatever the correlation is in like a political sort of environment. One of them is the prince or something. Yeah, one of them is the prince, the heir to the empire, and his husband is mysteriously dead at a very young age, so he is sort of rushed into a marriage with the son from another family, and together the 2 kind of figure out, oh, maybe his deceased husband was actually killed, and that's kind of where the plot starts from what I understand. It's like the intrigue of like what actually happened, what's the bigger story, and it is of course a romance. It's sci-fi gay romance, so I wholly support it. This is the Illumicrate edition and it's very pretty. I'm really excited for this. I was going to read it anyways. When I was so excited when I saw that this was going to be the Illumicrate book. Yes, thoroughly exciting. All right, but what about books that I don't have yet that are like coming out this month? There's quite a few. Number one being Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. This is the sequel to Chain of Gold. This is the second chronological Shadowhunter series, but the fourth published Shadowhunter series. If you haven't heard about the Shadowhunter books, you've probably been living under a rock. Is that mean to say? They're just really popular. I've been a big fan for a long time. Chain of Iron is featuring the same cast of characters, kind of picking up, I think, a couple months after where book one ended, but this time there is a serial killer on the loose, and I'm so excited. Today is actually the release day for Chain of Iron, and I just finished filming my introduction to my reading vlog, which should be going up later this week, so you'll know my opinion on the book very soon. I'm also super excited for Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tully. This book is a book that I've had on my like radar for a while. I think I saw it on NetGalley and requested it and got denied, but I was like, wow, I still really want to read it. So I put it on like my wish list so that I remember to get it. A fun story. I actually ordered it at work and it came early, but the person who was receiving the books didn't recognize my last name. And so I left work before I realized it had arrived, and then I had 2 days off in a row. So my hold expired when I went to work yesterday to go grab it. It was actually damaged. It wasn't like unsellable, but I was like, oh, this is too damaged for me to want to take home. So I just reordered it. But later the same day, yesterday, someone ended up purchasing it. So I don't feel too bad about it. And I'm just like spreading the love for Sweet and Bitter Magic. I don't know too much about this book. It is a YA fantasy about, I think it's a girl who is cursed never to love unless she steals it from someone else. And another girl, I don't know, I know it's gay, I know they fall in love, there's been a lot of early hype. Sounds really good. Oh, I'm so excited for this next book. First Become Ashes by K.M. Spara. Oh, I'm so excited for this book. I tried so hard to get an arc and it just did not work out. I loved Docile. Which is K.M. Spara's first book, his debut, and it was just perfect. It was chef's kisses. It was perfect. It was definitely in my top 10 of last year. I think about that book all the time. It was so good. But First Become Ashes is his new book. It is another standalone novel. It is about a man who has trained his entire life to like think he was going to go out into the world and hunt monsters. And then he finds out there are no monsters. He's being basically trained and tortured. His training is just like torture by like a sadistic cult leader. And he's finally been freed into the world to try to rehabilitate. And this is that story. And he's not like quite convinced that there are no monsters. And just, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. This is another like highly anticipated book. It doesn't come out until April, I believe. So I do have quite a bit of time before I can get my grubby little hands on it. Oh, but I cannot wait. And I will be doing a reading vlog for this one as well because I'm just so excited. But I read Docile in like 24 hours, so I wouldn't be surprised if I managed to just like zip through First Become Ashes that quickly as well. Oh, I'm so excited. Next up, we have A Trial of Sorcerers by Elise Kova. I read the first book in the Air Awakened series a long time ago, and I loved it, and I don't know why I never picked up more of the series. That is something I want to remedy this year, if I can. But Trial of Sorcerers is her new first book in a series set in the same world as Air Awakens, but I think I saw that you can start with this series and you won't really have spoilers or anything, or if they are, they're not going to like ruin the series for you. So I am excited to sort of dip back into that world and dip back into her writing. I think she's a good writer. And yeah, I don't know too much about this. I think it is similar to like other YA fantasies that have like a magical challenge game competition thing going on, and I do kind of love that trope, so sold. And finally, another really exciting book. I think I've said that about like every book on this list, but Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater. This is book 2 in the Dreamer trilogy, which is Ronald Lynch's trilogy. post Raven Boys. I really liked Call Down the Hawk. It was a different book than I expected it to be, but I think it was good because it was different. Like, it felt alien enough from Raven Boys while still obviously being connected to that series. And I thought that was just masterfully done. So I am so excited for Mr. Impossible, especially with the cliffhanger ending of Call Down the Hawk. Don't love the cover, but I didn't love the cover for Call Down the Hawk either, so it's like, whatever. I wasn't planning to do a reading vlog for this one, but maybe I will. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in seeing, is like a vlog dedicated to that, or just like a review. So yeah. So those are the books. Those are all the books. What about goals, reading goals? I set some reading goals last time I did a TBR, and I, for the most part, managed to stick to them, but they were really loose. So this time I'm actually gonna try to be a lot stricter about that. Or not stricter, but like clearer what my goals are. I think it's good to start the year with looser goals that you can then tighten and narrow down as the year goes on, because then you get to see what's really important. So yes, going to just kind of be continuing that. And one of the main goals was quality over quantity. That is 100% still staying true. I don't think that I need to elaborate or narrow that down anymore. I did read some books last season that disappointed me, but for the most part, it really was a lot of quality, good books. In the same vein, I have to remind myself that I can put a book down if it is just not doing it for me. Like, that is 100% okay, and I have to just keep reminding myself that DNFing is not a bad thing. I don't think I'm going to DNF any of these books, but if I have to, I have to, and that is okay. I also want to try to read some nonfiction. There's a couple topics that I'm just genuinely interested in, but there's also just sections of the store that interest me. I'm like, wow, there's so many interesting books here that I just never pick up because I never think to pick up nonfiction, especially in like the environmental section. There's so many books there that I'm like, yeah, I want to read about like birds or about sweetgrass or about mushrooms, like whatever. I want to read about it. It sounds really cool and really interesting, but I just never think to pick it up. So I kind of want to pick up or try to pick up some nonfiction this season. I think it would be really nice. And I think it kind of ties into my next goal, which is I want to read outside more. I think there's something really romantic about reading outside. I used to read outside all the time, but I have developed a much stronger fear of insects. It's probably problematic. I should probably see a professional about it, but I have just like horrible reactions to insects, especially if they're like crawling on me. And so that's kind of prevented me from going outside quite a bit in the last couple years. I really want to try to work on that, maybe, you know, be less irrational, because even if I don't see bugs, sometimes I just think I do, and I just need to like work on that. I also think there's something super romantic about like walking and reading, which is a talent I do not have. But a couple months ago on Instagram, I was like, wait, people can actually walk and read. And a lot of people were like, yes, I walk and read all the time. And that is something I want to train myself to do, is like walk around a park and read. And I think it'd be really cool to do that with like a Jane Austen book or something. I just think that'd be so charming. So I am going to try to be doing that this spring. I also have a lot of goals for just getting out more in the spring. I've been cooped up so long, not just because of the pandemic and the bug fear, but just like I feel like I cooped myself up. So I really want to deal with that, especially the time change is coming in like 2 weeks. So that's going to be sort of the signal for me to be able to spend more time outside. So definitely I'll be keeping that kind of more updated in my vlogs and stuff. So if you're interested in that, do pop in. Oh, and it connects to nonfiction reading, because I think it'd also be kind of like a nice environment to read like nonfiction environmental books, like outside in the environment, you know? Speaking of Jane Austen, I really do want to read more classics and classical literature. These are, I feel like it's another thing that's developed in the last year or so, is a desire to actually read classics. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who actually read classics, but I definitely am. I don't know, like, I want to read just like general classics. I have quite a few on my shelf that I haven't picked up yet, and I'm always buying more, so it's an issue. So yes, and when I speak about classics, I don't just mean like the highbrow classics, which I do want to read a lot of, but also sort of like science fiction and fantasy classics. I've got a couple classic masterworks on their way to me, and I count those as classics too. I don't think that genre need be a barrier between what defines something as like a classic piece of literature and not a classic piece of literature. So that's all I have to say on that. Definitely expect with the season for me to start moving more into more classic reading. I think as it gets warmer out, I want heavier books, like content heavier books. So yeah, I could see that definitely happening in the next couple months. And most importantly, I want to read more diversely. This is something that I definitely have an issue with, partly because I do try to read the books already on my shelf, and I wasn't buying diversely for a very long time, and also partly because I'm just really bad at like going out of my way to buy diverse books, and that is a personal issue that I need to work on and need to remedy. So I want to read not just like queer diversely, which I think is like easier for me. I just automatically gravitate to those kind of books, but also like BIPOC and just POC in general authors. I do have a couple books that I am like excited to read, like Legend Born and the Gilded Ones that have been sitting on my shelf, so I could definitely pick those up. I really don't have a reason for putting them off. But yeah, that is something that I really want to make an effort to do this season. I think if I manage to read like, and this is such a low standard, I know this, but I gotta do baby steps and slowly make my shelf so much more diverse and better for it. But if I could do like 10 to 15% at least of my reading this season diverse authors, diverse characters, if I could do that, I would be happy. I would be really proud of myself. I know that's a really low bar. I'm not gonna lie. That's a super freaking low bar. But my goal is to actually do more than that and, you know, like step above the bar. But I would be happy if I managed like 10 to 15%. My dream goal would be 25 to 50%. But I can already tell you 50% is likely not going to happen. Just because like I already have 3 Julia Quinn books on this, you know, list. She's not exactly a diverse writer. But yes, that's it for me for my spring TBR. Like I said, I have a vlog for Chain of Iron going up later this week, and I have my winter wrap-up. It should have posted last week. So if you're curious about what I read in the last couple months and how I managed to compare to my winter TBR that I had set out, definitely check that video out. But thank you for stopping by. I'm so glad to have seen you. I'm so glad to have been able to spend time with you. I hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever time it is. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.